All right, here we are at another episode of Flipping Houses for Rookies. Good morning, Peter.
Morning, Bill, and hello, everybody.
It might be surprised to let people know, but you're the second rookie, right? My camera's like
Mm-hmm.
that. Jessie was the first, my daughter. I don't know why my camera is doing that. Anyways, that's a little better. All right,
Yeah.
so we are on podcast number 461. 461. And the name of today's podcast is Creative Real Estate Lawsuit Blockers.
Okay.
And here's the description: getting sued. Isn't that what so many worry about in a big transaction like real estate? As a rookie, you may wonder if you put the deal together correctly. Or even worse, did you cover your financial ass with the correct documents?
Mm-hmm.
After all, there is nothing more demoralizing than making $20,000 on a deal, and a year later that $20,000 profit turns into $100,000 or more litigation. That most often you did nothing wrong, but the allegations of a plaintiff means you now have to retain an attorney for $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, or more. So how do you make yourself invisible to these predators? Instead, what if you followed our 10-step simple method I like to call the deal shield?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. You can keep crossing your fingers, hoping you won't be the next cautionary tale at your local RIA meeting, or you can spend the next 60 minutes with us and how to make yourself lawsuit proof. Before your next deal structure, don't say, I will figure out the legal stuff later. Instead, learn your legal defense today. All right, so this camera thing is really spooking me out here because I don't
What
know. I'm
what's it
not
doing?
sure. I'm not sure. Well, it's. I feel like it's like right in my face.
Oh.
So let me see if I can. Oh, there we go.
Looks like you sat down.
Center
Okay.
stage. Yeah.
Now we're like same size. Okay, great.
Okay. We good?
We good.
All right. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping first. So first of all, we record this podcast every Thursday morning at 9:30 Eastern Time, and we live stream it on Facebook, LinkedIn, and two YouTube channels. One is Flipping Houses for Rookies. The other is Creative Real Estate. I'm sorry, Creative REI Reply, which is the software company that we own. So you can go check us out there anytime you want. Also, if you go to Creative Real Estate Dealology Newsletter.com/subscribe. Every week I put out a free newsletter that is about deal structuring, and it's a very concise 5-minute read, and I think you'll really enjoy that. As well as I have just recently written a book, which I will tell you about because I have exciting news today. The book is called Leads, Deals, Cash, Creative Real Estate Operator's Manual. It's the brand new and revealed today book. And it's how to retire early with leads, deals, and cash booster blueprint. As of about 9:30 last night, Peter, I am 98% sure that my workbook that goes along with this book is ready to be published. So,
Interesting. Workbook. You don't see things like that. That's really clever because here's a book, read it. Good luck. You have to just do more than read things. I'm an educator. Bill is got a lot of data on education. You have to do things like that, like how to get organized and how to apply things. right?
So that's right. So not only do I have a workbook that you can purchase along with the source material, which is the book itself. It's completely. I mean, you read it. It is a creative real estate operator's manual.
Yeah.
I've left nothing out. I take you all the way from doing your first deal to doing multiple deals per month and having staff working for you and everything else. And it's all done in 6 steps. The workbook goes through it. And inside of the workbook, you can go get certified.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go online and you could take your answers that you would write in the workbook and you can actually certify yourself as a different levels of certification, which I won't talk about now. Maybe next week we'll do something like that. But for right now, let's get back to the podcast. Make sure you go to Amazon.com, type in William Hawthorne with no E at the end, and you will find the 7 books that I've written, one of them being the one that I just talked about, which is Leads, Deals, and Cash. All right. So, Pete, this is something new to you.
Hmm.
And only because I'm going through a frivolous lawsuit that I just had to write a check for several tens of thousands of dollars
Mm-hmm.
to defend myself. So I thought I should confront this and come up with some standard policy to try to protect myself from this happening again.
Sure. Makes sense.
Now, by the way, frivolous is very cautiously used. It was used by my attorney. I actually have 3 attorneys right now. 3.
Mm.
Frivolous means the lack of seriousness, good sense, and worthwhileness.
Mm. Yep.
My attorney that I'm closest to says, Bill, it's a money grab.
Sure.
Right? Okay, so careful when you do that with your mic. It rubs up against your collar.
Oh, okay.
In many cases, frivolous allegations against you or your insurance company is just a money grab for the plaintiff.
Mm-hmm.
And the plaintiff is the person that's suing you. That has found, in other words, the plaintiff, the person suing you, has found an ambulance chasing attorney that is going to take 30% of the winnings because they feel like they can win and for his or her fee and doesn't charge the plaintiff anything.
Ah.
Which means the only one with real money in the alleged litigation is you. In other words, right now, I'm the only one with money in this lawsuit.
Yeah.
Right?
Hey, do they ever have them where I thought I've heard, I don't know if it applies to this, where if the person files a frivolous lawsuit and they lose, they have to pay something or they get countersued for false arrest or something or false whatever?
I have no idea.
Mm. It should be that way if they do something stupid. And yeah.
So in other words, in my case, the other side, the people that are suing me, have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
They think they're going to grab money.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing in my case is the way that they worded the lawsuit, my insurance company is telling me they're not going to pay. So now I have a lawsuit defending myself and my attorneys going after the insurance company for doing that to me.
Oh, really?
Which I never do.
Mm.
But it's too blatant. Right?
Yeah, insurance companies don't always jump in and help out. I won't
Right.
even tell you my story, but yeah, they don't always do that. Very rarely. They try not to, keep their money.
So this is the reason why I came up with, well, first of all, I want to comment on what you just said. So I've been doing this 30 plus years, have done hundreds of deal transactions.
Mm-hmm.
What makes this litigation different for me is about, I don't even know how many, 7, 8 years ago, Peter, I decided to buy some 3 or 4, 2-family, 3-family houses.
Mm-hmm. Right.
This is a tenant that is suing me.
Mm-hmm.
This is not one of my lease options because I've been to court a couple times with those and won.
Sure.
And so I'm looking at this in my mind thinking, why is this happening to me?
Mm-hmm.
But even though it's a different thing, it it provoked this podcast and some other things that I'm going to talk about today.
Sure.
Okay. And
Sure.
there's simple common sense things that you may think are kind of uh, strange, but it is an operating basis. And before I get started, I want you to understand my perspective of a lawsuit, which is
Mm-hmm.
just a billism. Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why any lawsuit is perpetual is because you most likely, in my case, have a dishonest person that pays $1,025 a month for a rent,
Mm-hmm.
has an illegal a boyfriend that's illegally living in the place,
Mm-hmm.
tries to light a furnace and gets hurt when he wasn't supposed to be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They're supposed to have renter's insurance. They don't have it. They've done everything wrong and they feel like they can grab, I guess, I'm guessing 10, 20, 30 grand
Mm-hmm.
because they have rights.
Hmm.
And I'm going to go over this in a few minutes. But the interesting thing is what happens, and this happens, and the reason why I'm steadfast about this is because please listen to me loudly. Please do not take this as some rant that I'm on.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the reason why I'm doing this podcast and why I feel like it's such a strong opinion. Not opinion, a strong reason for me to do this. In real estate, we have a seller agent and we have a buyer agent. We, as the person paying the seller, do not have the right to speak to the seller personally. Do you understand?
No, you lost me. You mean like like when a buyer comes to buy a house?
If I were to buy your house through an agent, I'm not going to talk to you.
Oh,
I'm going to talk to my agent.
right.
So it's
Yeah.
like it's like telephone
Yeah.
tag. Like, so I'm going to talk to my agent. My agent's going to talk to the seller's agent. The seller's agent's going to talk to the seller.
Right.
So it's a breakdown in communication.
Mm.
Now I have unusually asked in many situations to put the realtors and the clients in the room and let us talk openly. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not common that you do that. Here's my point. The seller feels like they're being represented
Yeah.
by an agent that is not trained to do what the seller thinks they're trained to do. A real estate agent is trained to go find a buyer, write a purchase and sales contract, hand it over to legal or a closing agent, and let them finish it. Most people don't understand that. What has happened is by default of the nebulous system that they have, the good realtors realize that if the only way they're going to get their money is if they consult their client through the transaction to make sure that the client, who knows nothing about the transaction, who should know everything about the transaction, gets through the transaction so they can get their check. But realtors that do 5, 6, 8, 10 deals a year haven't figured that out.
Mm.
Realtors doing 20, 30, 40, and one of my realtors does 71 deals a year. Okay, with
Yeah.
3 people. She's got 3 people on her team, her and 2 other people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the reason I'm telling you this is how the attorney client relationship goes. When you hand something over to somebody else and
Mm.
expect it to go on an automaticity and let it run by itself without your input or your feelings or your ideas, it's a runaway train.
Mm.
Now, the same thing happens in happens in real estate. It's usually because the language is misunderstood the words are not correct, especially the legal contracts are not understood and they need interpretation.
Hmm.
Instead of the person reading them, looking up words in a dictionary and figuring out themselves, they would rather pay somebody big bucks, in this particular case, a realtor 5%, or an attorney $300 an hour to figure out what the legalese say. So it is all about communicating between the two parties, because now there are third and fourth parties that are interpreting what's going on between the two main parties. In other words, the person that is being sued and the person that is doing the suing.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tell you that before I go on to my 10-step program right now, if you just realize that communication is the solvency of all problems, when you talk things out and you work things out and you find out real things, not lies, because realize the only reason why something perpetuates or lasts is because there's a lie, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking about physical things. I'm just talking about the reason why. What is the families, the Hatfields and the
Oh, the McCoys and the Hatfields. Yeah,
yeah
they were
that
fighting for something. I don't know what it was, but they were fighting.
but realize that number one, the Hatfields and who's the other one?
McCoys.
McCoys, the Hatfields and the McCoys are in the argument, but there is somebody else on the outskirts keeping that argument going. And the only reason why they're keeping that argument going is because there's lies.
Mm-hmm.
So that person might go to McCoy's and say, "Hey, did you know Susie Joe did this?" And then the Hatfields would be like, "No way, did you?" And it's just lies. This is the reason why we have wars. This is the reason why we have all the problems we have right now. This is the reason why the United States is, in my opinion, the United States is divided between Democrats and Republicans, is because the news is the one feeding the fuel. They're the third party or the third person involved that is feeding both sides to keep the lie going or keep the argument going, right? That is a lawsuit. So you can nip the lawsuit in the bud if you can get right to the person that is suing you, or yeah, the person that is suing you, and get facts.
Mm. Yeah,
Erase
yeah.
doubt or erase the opinions with pure facts, because realize a fact is an observable thing, and an opinion is a non-observable piece of data.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you have opinions and facts, and you need to wash that out. So that's my pre-emphasis here. Right? So it's a little bit weird, I know, but one thing that I have learned at 61 years old is the more you can take responsibility for somebody else, the better off your life will be. So you can't say, "Oh, my tenant is suing me," and not take responsibility. I can actually put myself in their shoes and see why they're doing it,
Mm.
and take responsibility for them. Like, for example, I just sold the house, but I let them live there for 4 months while they were suing me.
Mm.
Right? Because like I'm not going to feed their lying machine,
Mm-hmm.
right? By trying to evict them. Instead I sold the house, and now they're getting they're getting their karma right now, because the person that bought it was nasty in my closing, all the way to the 10 minutes before we closed. She stole $1,200 from me, so they'll get
Wow.
theirs. Yeah. All right, so let's get into my deal Sheild system. So,
Mm-hmm.
by the way, deal here is an acronym.
Oh.
So it's D period E period A period L. And
Mm-hmm.
it stands for defense essentials for assets and liabilities. Pretty clever,
Mm-hmm.
huh? Defense essentials for assets and liabilities. That's what it means. Deal Sheild.
I thought it was clever enough just as a deal shield. Then you added the other layer of the acronym aspect. Nice going.
You see my new coffee mug?
No, well, it says promoted to grandpa. Oh, okay. Yeah.
It's too big though. I don't like it. It's too big. I
Oh.
wish it was smaller. Anyways, and I have to really give credit to Dan Kennedy. I'd been going through this, and I get a newsletter from him, which I'm
Mhm.
going to talk about in a second. And in the newsletter, he talks about these 10 points, which I'm going to use. So they're not just, I mean, I've added to them, but they're mostly Dan Kennedy's. The newsletter is No BS Magnetic newsletter. And I was able to sort some of this stuff out because of his newsletter.
Oh, good.
So, which is the case with me all the time. I'm not always, I mean, nothing in this world is new. There's no new content or anything. You just rehash it all. But I read a lot. So I get, especially when I'm in trouble or I have something pushing on me, I go look for content to be able to think with
Hmm.
so I can sort things out. I'm not looking for a solution. I'm just looking for ideas because that's what you do when you read is you listen to through the writings, you listen to other authors or authors give you their perspective of whatever it is you're trying to deal with, and it gives you ideas of how they dealt with things, right?
Right. Secondhand
So,
knowledge saves you a lot of time.
right. So, by the way, this newsletter is a must if you're not getting it mailed to you monthly. It's called the Dan Kennedy has a letter. It's called the BS, meaning bullshit, uh, BS Magnetic newsletter. If you just go Google it, you'll find it. It is an amazing newsletter. Actually, uh, Russell Brunson, who is in who owns ClickFunnels, bought Dan Kennedy's system. So it's actually Russell Brunson and Dan Kennedy that write it, and I think it's like $99 a month or $97 a month. It comes in every month, and it's like a book.
Wow.
It's like 30 or 40 pages,
Hmm.
and it's colored, and it's just it's one of the best newsletters I ever read. Right. All right. So now let's go over the 10 steps of
Yep.
the 10 steps of the deal shield method. So number one, proactive legal protection is cheaper than reaction damage control. So here you want to build a relationship with an attorney before you need one, right? Waiting until a legal problem explodes is the most expensive way to deal with the problem, right?
Makes
Now,
sense.
now I texted you the other day because when I wrote this podcast, it made me think of this, and we are, or I am, I don't know if you're going to do it with me or not, but I am going to make a change
Hmm.
in our system because of
Hmm.
this podcast. I mean, when I write these, I get ideas too, right?
Sure.
So So I highly suggest the way you go about making a relationship with an attorney is uh, instead of just going to an attorney and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna do real estate and I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna do that," and have they're just gonna shun you
Yeah.
because they run businesses. They know you're a tire kicking client. They'll be nice to you to some point, but there's no money yet,
No, they're pretty busy with actual bees, not wanted
right?
bees. They're busy. They're not
Right,
looking for customers.
right. So instead, I would use my probate system to engage attorneys and have those deals create a friendship.
Hmm.
Now, I did a live event um, on how to do this. So I have it all recorded, and you can actually get it for free if you want. And I'll tell you how in a second. I charged people to be at this event, but it was a couple years ago. And there were two ways to make relationships with attorneys, right? One way was to uh, talk to your friends and relatives and see if they have an attorney that they already have a relationship with,
Hmm.
and then ask them to make an appointment for you and them to go see the attorney. So it would be a bridge communication between the person that has a relationship. Like I have a very good relationship with my attorney, you know that, right?
Sure.
I mean, I call him on a cell phone sometimes multiple times a day. He's called me to help him with deals. I call him to help me with deals. I could tell you that there is a lot of time that I speak to him that nobody knows about. He used to own his own firm, but now he's working for somebody else, and I never get billed for it. And it's not, I'm not trying to do it not to get billed. We're just friends.
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, I'm in the middle of doing some estate planning, and he is the go-to. If when I drop dead, my daughter Jessie, who's my oldest, will go to him, and he will tell her what to do. Kind of like the old movies, you know what I mean?
Sure.
So the point is that he's my friend. So if you wanted an attorney to do what I'm talking about, I would set up an appointment. Say, hey, my friend wants to talk to you about some stuff. Can we meet you? So that's the first way. And you meet, and and here's what you do is, so you find out if they do estate planning type stuff, and if they actually do uh, um, probate.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a whole checklist of what you do when you meet the attorney and questions you ask. And at the very end, it's most likely that they are not probate specialists
Hmm.
or estate planning people. You would ask them, who do you use?
Uh-huh.
And could you introduce me? The second way to do it is to have an attorney that you know write a letter for you, and you send out mail saying, I would like to meet you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't have an attorney that will write a letter for you, you could just send out mail and just outflow and make appointments and go see some probate attorneys. I don't know why I stopped doing this. Some of the best deals that I've done in my life came, and the reason why is because I figured this out because the guy that raised me, my godfather, had Alzheimer's for 2 years. And I was in probate court, which is a place where I already knew a lot about probate, but I really learned it because I went through it myself.
Mm.
And what happened was I met this attorney. He was actually he was Jess, who was my godfather, was Jess's attorney, and he had to work with me to make. I was in charge of his health. I wasn't in charge of his finances, but I had a huge influence on the finances because I was traveling 45 weeks a year at the time, and the family met at probate court. There was 15 or 18 family members that were his blood, and they met. And I'll never forget having, because he had money. I'll never forget getting a phone call that evening. I think it was in Minnesota or something like that, and saying, "You're not going to believe this." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" Well, the whole family met, and they want you to represent Jess because I was really close to him. So that's the kind of so anyways, that's how I figured this out. And next thing I know, I'm like, I had this epiphany, like, wait a minute, you're a probate attorney. You ever get any houses? And I
Hmm.
bought I
Hmm.
bought a handful of houses from this guy that were just handed to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know why I stopped doing that, other than laziness.
Well, aren't they often like rehabs because they're kind of beat up and they need a lot of work? Is that part of it? Because we started
Who,
doing less rehabs because we want to do other type of deals. Was that part of it?
who cares?
No, I don't care. I'm just asking if that was what you were thinking.
I wasn't thinking anything. It just happened.
Oh, okay.
So at this particular point, I want to go back to doing that. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, anyways, I show you how to do all this on this event. It's like a 90-minute event. It's not very long. It was on Zoom. It was during COVID. I was doing a monthly marketing mastery where once a month I would do a call and show you different ways to find and do deals.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was charging like $100 a month for it or something. I don't know, $199. I don't remember what it was. Uh, anyways, if you send me an email with your name and some explanation of why I should give it to you instead of just grabbing it for free, like, I really want to try this, or tell me your story a little bit so I can see it. I would love it if you give me a testimonial, but if you send me your name and your email to flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com, it's flippinghousesforrookies@gmail.com, I will send you the link for this training that I charged. I think it was a couple $100. All right. So number two, spent too much time on that. Number two, the point is if you're going to build a relationship with an attorney, why not make money with them?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Why not? And of course, the attorney that gives you the deal, he can close them for you and make money. He can get closing fees. Which, by
Yeah.
the way, you might ask yourself, why are you going to go after a probate attorney when you need a litigation attorney? Well, birds of a feather flock together. My attorney was the one that hired me, two guys that charge 300 and change an hour. One guy is a specialist on suing insurance companies.
Mm,
The other guy is a specialist in defense, and he's in the courthouse that I'm in often. So
mm,
he did my due diligence for me through the good old boy network.
mm,
Okay, so there's no better than that. All right, number two. Next on our list is attorneys are tools. Use them strategically. They're not your social worker.
mm.
Okay, and I'm going to cover this in the next one because this is when I cover this later on, this will make sense. I think it's number 3 and 4. Um, and I can't emphasize this enough. Uh, they're tools.
Mm-hmm.
You are paying the attorney. You are the boss.
Mm-hmm.
You are the one in charge, not the attorney. And you and I both know one of the things that pisses me off the most is when I work with a client and do a creative real estate deal and work with them for hours and they go to their attorney and their attorney says, I wouldn't do that
Mm-hmm.
because most attorneys work from the fear and terror viewpoint because they're in courts with vicious peoples, right? They're constantly swimming in a small pond with piranhas in it, and they're constantly trying to save their lives.
Mm.
And if you don't believe that, just go sit in a courtroom,
Yeah.
right? Now, here's the most important part. Attorneys have their own incentives that are not necessarily yours.
Mm.
So, what's an attorney's incentive?
You asking?
Uh-huh.
Well, I mean, there's the obvious thing he's making a living, but I think one of the things he's doing is just protecting himself. Like if he's telling you what you should or shouldn't do on some legal contract, if it goes wrong, it backfires in his face, doesn't it? So I think he's trying to make sure he's okay.
So, one of the things I do in my life whenever I'm buying something is I look at what I'm paying for.
Mm-hmm.
What is the other person doing to get my money? So, it breaks down to two different things. A, are they giving me a product, a completed finished product,
Mm-hmm.
like a bottle of water? You go to the grocery store and you buy a piece of meat, right? You buy some vegetables, you're buying sustenance,
Mm-hmm.
you're buying something that is real. Or are they selling me time?
Mm.
Like my plumber wants to do time and material to fix my sink. No, 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 no. What I want you to do, Mr. Plumber, is charge me for a fixed sink.
Mm.
So I don't want to pay you $90 an hour to fix my sink. I want to pay you $400 to have a fixed sink. You see the difference?
Mm-hmm.
So when you're hiring attorneys, you're paying them by the hour, which means by the minute,
Yeah.
because that's how they do it. Because they do it in 6-minute intervals, right? So when you do this, you don't want to hand over control to your attorney, like we already talked about.
Mm.
You want to monitor what they're doing and question it and ask it. Like, for example, I just paid all this money and they had an agreement they wanted me to sign. Well, I sat down and read the agreement. I busted out the dictionary and a few words that were not very big, but I made sure I understood the content.
Mm.
And I had two questions for him, and I think he was surprised because I went back and I had two paragraphs, and he actually said, "You're right. I need to change those paragraphs," and he changed them and sent it back to me. So I don't think they're used to that.
No,
Okay,
that's good though because that puts them on their toes. That
right.
you'll be watching, so they better really do a good job for you.
I owned a gas station for 27 years. We pumped gas. Obviously, we're a full service gas station. I started with auto repair, so I had 3 bays of auto repair. I had a couple mechanics that worked for me. And I started out with 9 tow trucks or 11 tow trucks. I ended up selling those and by accident got in the car business, not knowing what I was getting into because I just started selling cars. I didn't do it because I wanted to be in the car business. I did it because I was making money selling cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
That people were giving me. Anyways,
Yeah.
long story short, after a while, I elevated to a point where I had a service manager. And I'll never forget it. It was one of the most valuable lessons I learned in my life is he would hand me a stack of invoices for the week on Monday morning. Here's my invoices. And in the beginning, I would go through and I would read them all just to make sure he was doing it as good as I was doing it. It was an arrogance thing, right? But after a while, I would start asking questions, and I would pull an invoice out, one or two invoices out every other week or so, and I'd say, "How come you did this?" And it made him think that I was reading every single invoice, and he was on his toes. So what I'm talking about right now is the same way with the attorney. If you just pay attention and you just ask a question here and there, they make you think you're paying attention to everything.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, a good attorney nowadays is going to charge you $300 an hour, right? Especially a litigation attorney.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So what I suggest is, for a proactive move for someone that's not in that league yet, is to use Legal Shield. There are others like it. I use Legal Shield, and they're fantastic. If you're an individual, they charge $25 a month. If you're a business, they charge $99 a month. And you can actually speak to, as many times as you wish, an attorney that's in your backyard. So I'm going to tell you how to do this in a few minutes, but you could draft some mock documents, in other words, documents you're not going to use, and actually go over them with the attorney, right? You could spend $99 a month or $25 a month and actually read the documents. And when you have questions, call that attorney and list all the questions and say, what does this mean? What does that mean? And have them explain them to you. And that's being proactive, right?
Sure.
Number 3, suing for emotions is a bad investment. You want to sue, if you're going to get sued, or if you want to sue, use math in your lawsuits.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Especially us, if you can. Emotional lawsuits are subjective.
Sure.
And fueled by non-factual opinions and always cost more. Now, I said to you before that you have that third party between two keeping the lie going, that whole little thing there, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that I have recognized is that in a court of law, there's something that's called circumstantial evidence.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean to you?
Well, circumstances, the things that are happening around you, things that are occurring. And it simply means that the things that are happening may or may not really be part of what's happening in the case. Like, just because the guy walked by a bank on Tuesday afternoon doesn't mean he robbed it.
Right.
So it's just stuff that might have happened that doesn't prove anything. It's just like, doesn't prove. So if they have 5 circumstances, they try to add it up, but still, it's not proof, really.
Right. So that's my point in bringing it up is it's not hard facts.
Yeah.
Right. So if somebody says that they're being sued for shooting someone, you want to get as much evidence, like a picture of them pulling the trigger, ballistics and, DNA and gunshot residue and all the things that we see on TV, right? You want to get hardcore evidence. So if you're not going to, so math is the most hardcore evidence you can get.
Yeah.
And because of the business we're in, math is our tool. Because we're not in the business of being on defense because we beat somebody up, right? So this is the reason why our contracts do so well for us, because our whole industry is all about math contractually, right? We use emotion and feelings when talking to sellers and buyers, to get our yes deals. But then back it up with mathematical documents. So math is the evidence, right? So make sure the math is clear, which is why deal structuring is so important, because, and I've said this, I made this, drop this comment to you multiple times, when I'm doing deal structuring, which after a while you will do the same, when I'm doing deal structuring, I'm thinking about which documents am I going to use to put this together. And it makes the deal more easy for me.
Sure.
So just like what I said to you before, if you're a person and you pay $25 for a Legal Shield attorney, you should get my documents or whatever documents you're going to use, and you should read them and then set up a session with your attorney that's local and go over your questions. So when you're done, you're prepared to use these documents correctly because you know the legal stance. For $25 a month, that's pretty good. Right?
That's great.
Number 4, which brings me to create a paper trail always. Now, my filing cabinet, which
It's in the woods in back of
it's
you.
in the woods behind me, yeah.
If you're not seeing
My
this, Bill's out in the woods
yeah,
today.
yeah. My filing cabinet that's in my office, okay, is all of that. And I used to tease people all the time. It's like if I could take a customer's face and smush it on the copy machine and take a picture of it, I would, right? Um, so I want a paper trail. You need to follow up every key conversation or verbal agreement with a written summary. So if you're having a conversation, you should summarize it and then have them respond that they understood it.
Like in an email or text?
So this is the reason why I say if it isn't written, it isn't true. And yes, we use text and email to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be a legal document, a form, but I mean, I use text that I had a problem with somebody. And even though it was on my phone, my son helped me with an app that put it all on paper, and I had like 50 sheets of evidence of what happened, and this took care of everything. So don't erase your emails, don't erase your texts, keep them.
I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But what I'm talking about right now is like if you notice this with coaching clients, I even do it with you. I'll say, okay, here's what I would do, blah 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 blah, and at the end I'll put "makes sense?" question mark. So you respond to me knowing that you read it and you understood it, or is that okay with you? Or please respond to this email and let me know that you received it and understood it. Right now, that's part of your paper trail.
Yep.
And here's the thing, which you were just talking about. Believe it or not, one text or one email is not enough. Right? What you want is a string of them so an attorney or a judge can clearly see the intent of both sides in the written communication. Because just the attitude of the way it's written will tell the litigation what to do. So you want a string, you want a history of the conversation. I can tell you that my tenants call me or people will call me and I never answer my phone. I always make them text me. And one of the things that I'm going through with this lawsuit is I didn't need an app because I have an iPhone, so I could just go on an iPhone and you could just print the texts because I have Mac with everything, so I can go on my computer and I printed out a year's worth of text with her and submitted it to the insurance company.
Wow.
Right. So they were saying that I told her to go. She's saying that I told her to go light the pilot, and I never said that. But I don't talk to them. I do everything in writing just for this reason. Number 5, use plain English, not legalese. All my contracts are like this, and I'll tell you why in a second. You need to have understandable documents and agreements. Legalese and misunderstanding of words, or when people get glossed over because they don't know what the words mean, create confusion. And we all know that a confused mind says no or goes off on a rampage. Right? Now, I'm not going to get into this politically. I have some very strong opinions about this lately, but some of the people that are talking on TV about some of the legalese that the current administration are using may not understand the law. Their credentials, and I'm not saying that the administration is correct or not correct, but what I'm saying is that their stance is not that of an attorney that would litigate it and that of a judge that would prosecute it. And proof of that is they keep going to the courts and they appeal them and they go up to higher courts and they keep losing. Right? Because they don't have facts and they don't know what they're talking about. There's a bit of ignorance going on there. So that happens in every lawsuit, right? So my best advice is to make sure that they know the math, meaning everybody that's signing the contract. They know how much they're going to get. A seller. I'm talking about a seller. They know the math,
Mm-hmm.
how much money they're going to get, and when they're going to get it, and how they're going to get it, and you focus on all of that. Then go over the default sections.
Uh-huh.
Right? Can you fix your mic, please? It's rubbing on your collar when you're shaking your head. Thank you. So then go over the default sections, but you want to use the benefits of the money first, swell their greed glands, and then go over the downside.
Yeah.
The
What
default.
happens if, and if something goes wrong, what happens?
Right. Make sense?
Sure.
Okay. Number 6, my biggie. Right? The biggest suggestion out of them all is draft first, then let your attorney polish your documents. Don't call your attorney up and say, I got this deal, can you write me a lease option?
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, I want you to understand that my collection of documents are either I acquired them, most of them I bought. I've got documents I paid $3,500 for. I got one document I paid almost $6,000 for. It's a one-page piece of paper that allows me to take multiple deposits on a piece of property and keep selling it, where a realtor can only take one deposit and stop selling it.
Mm-hmm.
If realtors had this document, they would have a whole different world. They don't even know it exists. They don't even try. They don't even want to. But my point is that my accumulation of documents has come from getting these documents and then using them and doing just what I'm talking about. I draft them first. I give them to my attorney, and I let the attorney punch in the local stuff and adjust the documents. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I've noticed when I do this, I always get when I allow the attorney to do the deal. Right now, realize that even if you use escrow companies to close or closing companies, they don't write documents. They get the documents from an attorney. They just process the closing.
Mm-hmm.
But what they do is that same thing that I've done is that every attorney uses boilerplate documents that they've used on another case or another attorney's give it to them. They bought them however they get them. They're boilerplate. They are not sitting down writing a document from scratch for you unless you're paying them an absorbent amount of money. And it's a very esoteric or very strange contract. Esoteric means one of a kind, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're giving you boilerplate documents, right? Now, here's a strange nuance. If you should, as far as I'm concerned, always record your conversations with sellers and buyers. If you record those conversations. Now, what I would do if I were new is I would grab my documents package. I have a documents package that is extremely cheap compared to what you could pay for these documents. I just told you about 2 documents in that package that's worth $10,000.
Yep.
Right? So you go to Flipping Houses for Rookies and you go to courses and it's under there. It says every document you need for creative real estate. So if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com. And by the way, when I talk about these newsletters and all these things I give, that's what supports this podcast. This is what keeps us going is when you buy things from me, right? I mean, that's what pays for this podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
So go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, go to courses, and you'll find those documents there. But my point is, you take the documents, whether you get them from me or anywhere else, you get a transcript from your phone conversation that you recorded with your seller. Now, in Creative REI Reply, which is our software, Creative REI Reply, we actually record all the conversations. You can download the conversation, right? You can turn that into a transcript. I use the best way to do it for no money is I use Google. Oh shit. Notebook LM. It's free. Google Notebook LM. You upload. I mean, there's a lot of other ways to do it, but you can upload it into Google Notebook LM. It's an AI. It will transcribe the phone call for you. Then you take the transcription, any one of them. You go to ChatGPT. You could go to Claude. I will tell you the best. Let me open it here. The best AI I've used so far, which is something new for me, is called GenSpark AI.
Mm-hmm.
It is absolutely one of the best AIs I've used so far. You take both the transcript and the document and you upload them and say, can you fill out this document for me the way the conversation went?
You're kidding.
Yep.
Seriously, that's crazy.
Yep. AI will work its best agents. So that's why I use GenSpark, is because the way AI works is it does individual tasks. So if I say to it, can you look up the word, Finnegan pin for me? And then the next agent will be, can you make sentences for Finnegan pin for me? Okay, good. Now can you write me a blog about Finnegan pins? Each agent works best on one or two tasks. If you try to tell it, write me a book, it doesn't, it gets lost. Because the memories are short. They only go so far on a string, and then it gets confused. So that's why I like GenSpark, because it's done with agents. The point is that you do this in separate segments. Once you get that document, don't trust it at all. Now you go to your legal Sheild attorney and say, this is what I drafted. Tell me what's right and what's wrong about it. What should I change? And there you go. Okay.
Yep.
Number 7, build a long-term relationship, not a one-time fix. So I think we already covered this in number 1 already, but it is important to know, don't wait until there's a crisis to walk into the legal pond with all the piranhas. So make those relationships, make sure your documents are clean. Think about this stuff before it happens, because preventative maintenance is much better than reactive maintenance. Okay?
Yep.
A reactive disease. Number 8. This is important. So know when to walk away. This is not, this is emotionally hard sometimes. Not every wrong needs to be righted. Right? This is where you think you're just holier than thou and you're going to prove your point, and you're being hostile. Hostile means you're aiming to hurt. You want to get even. You want them to hurt like you are. Right? Which is a little different than antagonism. Antagonism is you're just instigating. But hostility, you're trying to hurt. Right? So don't be hostile. Especially don't be covert hostile, which is kind of like passive aggressive. It's like you're aiming to hurt, but you don't want to be seen doing it. Right? Plus, this is negative energy and injustice. A lawsuit will suck up your attention units and kill any new deals going forward. So don't get wrapped up in what you're going to get, because I promise you, new deals and new business will make you a whole lot more money than making the other person wrong and suing them and making them pay you the $20,000 that they owe you, or you think they owe you, right? The easiest way to deal with this is to stick to the math and the litigation, not the emotions, and get everything in writing always. And then do like what I just did. I wrote my check. Actually, it wasn't a check. It was from a closing. They took my money. It's like if you had a business that was in trouble, right? And it's behind on its bills, and you got all these problems, and the lenders are calling you, the credit cards are calling you, and people are constantly calling you every day wanting money. The best thing you could do is you could either hire an attorney to take those phone calls for you, In other words, do all the negotiating for you, or get a good bookkeeper that's good at that kind of stuff. Put them in the back room. Send all the phone calls to that bookkeeper in the back, and let the bookkeeper or her team or his team handle it, and you go make more money. You don't need to have these people calling you, screwing your day up, and demoralizing you, because they will do that, right? So the best thing you could do is pass that off to somebody else, which is exactly what I just did with this litigation. I will monitor it, but I don't do that. I don't have to do that every single day. I don't have to I don't have to worry about anything. I just get an update. In the meantime, I'm off making money,
Mm-hmm.
and my attention's on it. That's the best thing you could do. Number 9 is an absolute that gets lost too often when going from verbal to contracts. Okay? Contracts should support, not sabotage, your relationships. Contracts should support, not sabotage. Take your mic and turn it so it's not rubbing against your shirt, please. Yeah, Emma will bitch at me later on about that. So it's still towing it, but that's okay.
I'm not moving.
You just moved your arm. So contracts should support you, not sabotage you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you say something, the contract should reflect that and not be something different, because that's just going to open up a whole can of worms.
Right. So I've been mentioned before, in my mind, when talking to or promising a seller or a buyer something, I'm thinking how will I put that in writing and put it into a contract? Which is why you want to use plain English in contracts, right? Not legalese. The reason why is your action matches your words. That's how you build trust quickly, is if your words match your actions or your actions match your words.
Mm-hmm.
You say, Peter, I'll tell you where I learned this. One time I was doing a deal with someone, and I was in a Dunkin' Donuts structuring the deal. It's a story which I wish I could tell right now, but we only got 3 minutes left. It was an amazing deal. One part of the deal is he thought he owed 120 grand, and when I called the bank to verify from his bank statement, he owed 81,000.
Wow.
So I said to him, because at 120,000, I couldn't make the deal. He was willing to let me do subject to, but I couldn't make the deal. Anyways, long story short, as I said to him, how much do you want? And he had $10,000 worth of bills. He says, well, I need 10,000. I said, no, how much do you want? He said, well, I'd love to get 20 grand. I said, okay, so if I give you a $20,000 money order, would you do the deal? Yes. I picked up my phone. I called my phone. I said, I'm going away this weekend because I used to travel on the weekends for work. Next Wednesday night, it was a Thursday morning. Next Wednesday night, you meet me at my attorney's, and I will have a money order with your name on it that says 20 grand. Now, you have to understand that's not how it works, because normally I would give the money to my attorney and my attorney would give him a check.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do that. I called my attorney and said, can we do this? He said, absolutely. When he showed up at the closing at 5:30, the first thing we gave him was the money order with his name on it that said 20 grand.
Mm-hmm.
Right? My words matched my actions.
Yep.
That's when I learned that, right? So you just want to make sure that whatever you say, you're going to write it down, and it's going to reflect in the closing documents. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Number 10, which brings me to a conclusion of today, which is test before you invest. My entire book that I told you about, which is Leads, Deals, Cash, Create a Real Estate Operator's Manual, is all about testing before you invest. I have no idea why we do this in every other industry and we don't do it in the real estate industry. And I don't know why I'm the first to think of this, right? Because nobody else talks about this. Test before you invest.
Mm-hmm.
In paperwork, here's how we do that. Everything that I do is a test before you invest. So we start off with a verbal agreement. Would you be interested in and we send them a memorandum.
Mm.
We've talked about this. The memorandum has the price, the monthly payment, even if they're not doing a terms deal. You want to get a monthly payment on how much you have to pay monthly to a private lender, right? So you want price, you want monthly payment, you want duration, and deposit if they talk about it. Those are the four mathematical pieces you need in a deal to make a deal.
Mm-hmm.
So what you do is you send them a memorandum and you see if they sign it. Then signing it means what?
Means they agree to the offer.
They're good so far,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you're proving to them your words match your actions, right? So send them a memorandum. Now, I've had a lot of trouble with this in the past. I don't so much lately because of this statement. A memorandum is you close them on the phone call. It might be the first phone call, it might be the 10th phone call, but they've agreed. They're ready to go forward. The memorandum triggers the deal meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the end of your closing call. Closing call. So it goes the first step, which we're going to actually have certifications. I just made these. I'm going to show them to you after I get done. There's going to be 4 certifications you can get. The
Mm-hmm.
first one is a foundation certification where you would do their pre-qualifying and see if they're ready and you know what to do. The second certification is going to be that you talk to somebody and you close them to push forward. Then the next thing you need to do is to go into a deal meeting, which is where you do your due diligence on the property. You go check and make sure the property is qualified. You make sure that they didn't lie to you. Like we were in a house the other day and the guy said the house was clean and it was nowhere near clean. It didn't pass our inspection. So
Nope.
now we're back to negotiating, right?
Mm-hmm.
So once the end of the close, and then you want to due diligence, right? So you do the memorandum, and I'm going to tell you what the other thing is in a minute. You do the memorandum once they said yes.
Yeah.
If you're still trying to close them and you're still trying to get them to say yes, or they have somebody they want to talk to, then you can use a letter of an intent. A letter of intent has 3 different choices of which way they want to do the transaction. I usually do the hardcore one, which is the low cash offer first, and then number 3, I'll give them like a ridiculous like owner finance or slot deal where we're giving them 40% over market value, and then in the middle, number 2 is the one we want them to choose. That's usually like the subject to deal, right? So
Yep.
it's what we call a comparative offer because they're comparing it against 1 and 3. So they would naturally want to pick number 2 because it's the best. That's a good letter of intent. The point is a letter of intent is you're still negotiating. A memorandum is you have negotiated, you're just delineating or clarifying what you spoke about on the phone. You're taking it from a verbal conversation to a written conversation that they need to sign. And them signing it means that they're willing to go forward. So you can go into your deal meeting or due diligence stage and check and make sure that the comps are really correct and check and make sure that the house is in the proper condition. You're going to go do all of that. And then once you do your due diligence, you will then write your legal contracts, which is your lease options or your subject to documents or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you have time to figure out which documents you're going to use. And if you do your due diligence correctly, it will evolve those documents almost naturally for you.
Hmm.
So too many people are afraid of the documents because they haven't let the deal evolve correctly into a transaction. Does that make sense?
It does, because we have all the ways we look at a deal to see which one will work for us financially and which one would be something the person would accept. And when we get the right one, it's going to be one deal or the other. It's not going to be whatever. They're
Right.
different, as you can tell the way it's structured, and loan to value ratios, all those things that we learn.
Right. So to finish off here, one of the best things that I like about my forms is I've used them hundreds of times. My coaching clients use them all the time. We've come up with our own forms for in between hybrid deals, which you can't find those documents, like taking a subject to and a lease option, putting it together. One of the most common thing is that we use a land contract or an agreement for deed, which is the same thing depending on where you are, and we turn it into a slot deal, a sandwich lease option transaction.
Mm-hmm.
Katie's recently done that, so you can get the slot deal language into the contract because she's in Texas, and in Texas you can't do lease options more than six months. So
Right.
we have uh, cool documents for that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, my point is that what I love about my documents is because they're in plain English and because they evolved through the transaction and we added and subtracted things in the contract based on our agreements. I use the documents to close my seller and or my buyer. It's my final close so that I know. So in other words, I just don't say, here are the documents, just sign them.
Mm.
I use them to go step by step through the deal, and I record everything, even when I'm in the house. I often don't tell somebody I'm recording because I never use them. They're for me more than anybody else. They're not meant to go into court of law or anything like that. If you wanted to do that, just tell them I'm going to record this, which is not a big deal. But like when cell phones came out and I was able to record things, I record all my closings. And I do that for my own benefit because sometimes you say things that you don't realize you said.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you think that's not true, then try transcribing some of your conversations and realize, holy shit, did I really say that? You go back and you're like, yeah, I did. Anyways, the point that I'm trying to make here is I use my contracts to close, to do the hard close, to
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they're on point. And that is how you don't get lawsuits because everything is explained. You make sure they understand it. You let them ask their questions. So later on, when you go back to any problem, they understand.
Mm.
You say, well, don't you remember when? Take a look at this clause and go over it with them.
Mm-hmm.
You realize that somebody has to escalate to a point to get an attorney. So the main reasons why they escalate is A, you're being a hardhead and not trying to understand their point of view, and they're hitting a brick wall because you won't change your mind. No, I'm not going to do that. No, I'm not going to do that. You're wrong. You're wrong. Read the contract. You're wrong.
Yeah.
And you don't deal with them on a intellectual human basis, and you're just constantly trying to be right, and you just kind of like ridge up on them. Like you kind of like uh, what is a good word for a ridge? It's like you get to the edge of the cliff and that's as far as you can go,
Mm-hmm.
right? So my point is that litigation only escalates to litigation because of lack of communication, aka the lack of empathy, meaning you understand the other side. And a lot of times I'll look at something and say, you know what? This dude is completely wrong, but I'm going to write him a check for $3,000 because if I litigated, it would cost me five,
Mm-hmm.
and it would be miserable in my life for the next 5 years or 3 years or whatever.
Yep.
And sometimes you just got, like I said earlier, you just got to cut it loose and just let it walk away. In that particular case, my nickname is what? The deal maker.
Yeah.
How about if I give you $500 now and I make payments
Mm-hmm.
and I make some sort of an agreement with them? It's not always about the money. It's very often about they were right and they corrected you. They put justice in on you because they had injustice against them.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about this, and I know we're 8 minutes over time, but we talked about this in our coaching group, and I think we talked about this in podcast number 460. But one thing that you have to understand, and I can't not emphasize, you're going to think it's like completely off the wall what I'm about to say, but you should listen to what I'm going to tell you because I've done I lost track of doing 4,300 nose to nose, toe to toe offers with people. So I'm not talking out my ass. I didn't just read a book on this, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Every human being on planet Earth, every single human being, this is not a generality, every single human being on planet Earth has betrayed help stuck in their mind somewhere on their track, on their memory.
Mm.
Betrayed help. Somebody has tried to help them and they got betrayed. In other words, they didn't help them and the person got stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to realize every seller, every buyer that you're trying to help, because that's what we're selling is help, has got stuck by somebody before you, and they're cautious about you, think you're a scam, and they're constantly making you prove that you can help them. And when you hit that tripwire that they believe that you can help them, the deal just goes smooth. So the only thing that happens to a litigation is they feel like you did betray them on help, and they're trying to get justice because you didn't. Not only did you betray them, they feel like that you betrayed them, but you're digging your heels in, and you're not helping them. You stopped helping them, and they feel like you stopped helping them because you're trying to be right, or it's about money that you may or may not have, and you're pushing that help trigger or a lack of help trigger, and it's causing them to go get litigation. And I hope that makes sense because I blurred it all out at the end, but just realize that that's a huge factor. And I know
Mm-hmm.
it's a little bit weird what I'm saying, but if you look at human behavioral characteristics, that is how it happens. All right, sorry, we went 11 minutes over. We keep sneaking more and more. It used to be 5 or 6 minutes, now it's 11 minutes. Thank you for listening to us. Make sure you like us. Make sure you leave us a comment. Subscribe to us wherever you're listening to us or watching us. I hope to see you every week because we do release, we do live stream on Thursday mornings, and then it hits the podcast platforms on Mondays, the following Mondays. Make sure you go to Amazon, type in William Hawthorne without an E, and grab my new book, Leads, Deals, Cash, Creative Real Estate Operators Manual. You will love it. And probably by this time next week, you will be able to purchase the workbook as well, so you can work through things and start getting certified. Also, make sure you go to Creative Real Estate Dealology Newsletter.com/subscribe and grab my free newsletter. Every Saturday morning, I release it at 7 a.m. Eastern Time, and it's a 5-minute read on how to do deal structures. So check it out. It's definitely something you want to use as a tool on how to do creative real estate deals. Okay. With that, thank you for your support. Don't forget to subscribe to us and like us. And have a good week. Flourish and prosper. We will talk to you on episode number 462. Over and out.